And welcome back, everybody. Let's have a look at some of these coins, shall we? We'll start with the usual and only really focus on the usual, to be honest with you. I will get around to making videos on other coins, I promise. I just find it very hard to allocate time for myself to do these things at the moment. If you would join my Telegram chat, though, you can converse with me directly, and it might be a little bit easier if you want some questions answered. And if I don't answer them, there'll be people on there much more qualified than me who will. Anyway, let's have a look. First of all, Bitcoin dominance. Basically, looking like it's getting rejected here on the old daily, getting a fresh MACD cross, basically coming in by tomorrow. That's if we, and this is my theory, I'll just let you in, I'm not going to save the best to last. I'm thinking that there is going to be a bit of a drop across the board, and if there is a drop, I think the dominance will go up. So Bitcoin goes down in value, alts go down faster. I think Bitcoin dominance will actually go up a little bit, even though the prices of everything go down. And I'll explain a bit more for that. But generally speaking, it looks like it's bottomed out around these levels, and even though we're getting this cross here, I think this could pick up actually, despite the chart looking bearish and still obviously being bearish. I mean, it is bearish, there's no question about it, it's bearish. But there's that we've got to look at, and obviously the next thing we're going to look at, I'm going to stay on this page, what are you talking about, is the Dixie. So we've been watching the strength of the dollar, or the lack of, for a while now. We're wondering if it's going to pick up. So we're in the 4-hourly chart now, looking like a real sort of bearish indication here on the 4-hourly MACD. But I think this is going to pick up again from here. So we came down below the areas where I said that it's likely to bottom at, which is around 94. So we went way below there, 93.81, and now it looks as though we're responding to a bounce. Now we do have a golden cross here, despite the MACD looking this way. We do have a golden cross on the 4-hourly, and if we transfer this over to the daily, we're bouncing essentially from the 50 exponential moving average, and we're in the upper side of the Bollinger Band, which means that we're likely to stay there, statistically speaking, 70% likely to stay in that area for a prolonged, well, until we come down to test the center of the Bollinger Band, which is 93.50, we'll call it, thereabouts, where we should find a bounce. Don't think we're going to come down to these levels, but I wouldn't rule it out. But I don't think, excuse me, I always make these videos just after I've eaten my tea, so it often means that I get indigestion because I'm trying to speak too much and think too fast. But I don't think we're going to come down to these levels again, not necessarily. But I think, you know, if we do have a further pullback on this one, we'll be bouncing from the centre of the Bollinger Band and then back up again. But you know, it's showing a reasonable attempt to try and make its way up to that 95, where it could quite easily sail all the way up to 96. Which is the reason we talk about that, is because that would then be bearish for crypto, bearish for stocks, bearish for crypto. So stocks basically in crypto have had a little bit of a run recently, since the weekend, because we reached what most would consider to be a top. I mean, you don't have to be a genius to work out the Bollinger Bands. Everyone knows how Bollinger Bands work. We were pushing, overextending in a way on the dollar here. So as we came into the weekend, you know, this kind of thing doesn't trade at the weekend. It looked as though we were at a top, so I think that's one of the main reasons we got that move up. And you know, you'll see on my channel, on my YouTube, that I did say, you know, we're going to go up over this weekend. You know, alts especially, because the dominance was basically at a peak as well. So like I say, you've got to follow me to understand and work within this whole babble that I spit out. I'm sounding like Boris Johnson at the moment. I can't get my words out. Right, so that's enough of that stuff going on there. So we've looked at the Dixie. Looks like it wants to bounce around these levels, and if it doesn't bounce around these levels, it's not got much further to go, which means downside for stocks and crypto. We've looked at the Bitcoin dominance, which suggests that Bitcoin is going to be probably making another run on the dominance, which doesn't mean that anything is going to make any money. It just means that alts are likely to get hurt, or your money's better off in Bitcoin, or arguably Tether. So let's have a look at Bitcoin now, shall we? So Bitcoin, anyway, this is the run that it tried to do on the daily. So we can see that we had that pump, and now we are struggling and finding it almost impossible to get above this green 50 exponential moving average, and getting rejected quite significantly from there yesterday, and today again moving down. Probably going to come down to this blue box area for a retest of this, like we have done here and here, and that would bring us to 10,563. If we break down beneath there, then we've got the bottom of the box, which is 10,367. These areas are just, they're not precise, by the way. They're ballpark figures, but that's the rough areas of support that we're looking to test. Now, a bigger breakdown could break us down all the way down to the bottom of the Bollinger Band, which would also coincide with these two candle bodies here, and that is the lower end of 10,000. We're talking 10,185. I find that area a little bit more likely, to be honest with you, given what I'm seeing in the Dixie, and I've also, from last week, I said I've been trading other areas like commodities. Oil, I took a big short on oil. Oil's come down significantly, and oil is offering a precursor to stocks. If the oil starts to drop, you know, the petrodollar, a lot of money is made out of that or lost out of that. It's kind of a precursor to how the larger side of the economy is going to feel as a result. Similar to that gold, but more of an immediate knock-on effect. So we've had a 5%, I think, 4 or 5% since the last time I've looked, pullback on oil today, and I think there's a little bit more to go on that, if not a fair bit more to go on that, which means that I am basically expecting pullbacks, drops. Maybe you could call them dumps, certainly not crashes, not yet anyway, across the board. So these are my downside targets for Bitcoin, all the way down to the bottom end of 10,000, 10,200 or so. Upside target, I would be surprised, but it could happen, 11,000 to maybe even last one here of 11,188. But I would be surprised if that happened. I think the downside, not dramatically, it might not necessarily come down to these levels, but the downside is more likely than the upside for Bitcoin, especially with everything that I'm seeing. Now, I know that there's the US debates going on today, and there's a lot of in and are in how that's going to affect the market. To be honest with you, it's difficult for me to work that one out because I don't know the intricacies of what's going on in America. You'll obviously have to inform me on my Telegram or in the comments below. But I don't really think that necessarily just from a debate from tonight that's going to have any impact on the price. What I would say, however, is that I understand that that Biden is more interested in upping taxes, especially on things like capital gains. He wants to move that all the way up to 40%, which means that would be bad for you and me if this was America. And that's obviously if you decide to pay your taxes, which I hope you do, because it wouldn't be legal for you not to. But for the average investor, if Biden were to get in, so if Biden appears stronger, then it's basically bad for investors, you know, because it means that they're going to take more of your hard-earned cash that you've accumulated through all this journey, this crypto journey. So that I know that if Trump were to come in, there's a lot of people saying that's a tragedy. I'm not going to get involved in the politics, but what I would say is that there is a fear that if Biden appears stronger and comes across and looks like he's going to win, or even indeed does win, then that would be bad for the markets, for these markets, because capital gains would basically increase quite a lot. Anyway, that's my pseudo political side coming out there. Let's have a look at XRP. So again, XRP looking reasonably weak still here. I know that we've got our cross here, and the RSI is not really doing much at all. But you know, that aside isn't anything really. I mean, yes, it's good, but it's way beneath in bearish territory. So yes, it's positive, but it's not diverging very much, and you know, it's way into negative territory. So I don't see that as anything specific. So we're going to have to look at the moving averages. What's going on here? Huge rejections. You know, big spiky spikes here, and we've had that from all the way back here. So spiky spike, spike, spiky spike, spike. These are indications that whatever it wants to do, the gravity is stronger than the move up. So this again, I believe, wants to come back down again. And I think that when we do come back down, we'll be having a full retrace to where these candle bodies are, all the way down to like 22 on the dot, or maybe a bit lower. It's a difficult one really, because a lot of this is depending on the stocks, and a lot of the stocks is depending on this Dixie, and the Dixie is very malleable when it comes to the Federal Reserve, but the chart itself to me shows that it wants to do a further downtrend. One thing I should show you, and I don't know if I went into this on a previous video, I should have done. So the weekly MACD has had a cross, way into bullish territory, but it has had a cross. We don't get many of these, and when we do, they generally correspond to a prolonged downtrend. So it's only just happened, and it is on a weekly. So the last time we had this, we're not going to count this as such, but we should really, because the cross happened here, and then the big dump took place the week after. So yeah, cross there, that's bad. But this is one that we could look at here in a similar way. So way into bullish territory up here, we had a cross around this level. And then we had a downtrend which lasted quite a long time, several months. So we had our cross take place on this wick here, we could call it, and it came all the way down to this level, and it took all the way down to this level on this double bottoming area for us to start to pick up. We didn't get our bullish cross up until this level. So that was a long time. It was 6 months that took. But either way, we did have a cross here, and we did have a downtrend here. And this is a weekly time frame. So, like I say, there's moves up and down. So we had our cross here, and you can see we came further down when it had a pump up. But the cross had already taken place, and there was divergences going on. So, again, this is something to be aware of. We do have a negative cross. We have a cross on the MACD here, and it's not very often that we get crosses that basically don't do much as a result of that. So I will be very wary, of that. That is something to be aware of. It has happened, and generally, these things don't fake out really. Let's have a look at another example that we've got. We don't really have any other examples of that, to be honest with you. This one doesn't really count so much, but it kind of does. And we had our cross. This was kind of like flattening out here. Had a cross here, all the way down, and then we had a cross to the upside here, and everyone was buying back in. And this is where everything got really excited for a long period of time last year. So I mean, you've got to understand that there's a lot of things at play here, and with the Bitcoin chart specifically, we do have that, and that is an indication in itself that all these little moves that we're having here, everyone's saying, oh, we're going to rally up to 11,000. So what if you do rally up to there? To me, it looks weaker than it does look strong, and that will go for XRP too. Let's have a look at XRP on the weekly. Hasn't actually had that cross yet, actually. So for those who hate this coin, don't hate it too much. It's on a longer term time frame. It's still looking a little stronger. More resilient, should I say, not stronger. Is more resilient than Bitcoin. But again, it's going to follow what Bitcoin does, and if that cross has anything going for it, like I expect it will diverge, and that will bring this down too, and this will also cross and then diverge. So let's look at SXP now, then, to round this one off. SXP, a different kettle of fish, different ball game altogether. We bought this back down, or I did anyway. Down at around these levels, and I have sold already. I'm expecting the market to come down, so why would I hold on to a coin which makes massive moves up and down? I've made my profit on that one. I'm looking to cash in on it again if and when it comes down to lower levels. Now, I'm not saying that this isn't gonna do well. It probably will do well, but I think this has been way overbought. I mean, it was clearly way overbought. Look at the money flow index on that wick there. That generally needs to consolidate massively, and then we saw it break down all the way down to this level with a buy signal around here, and that was a fake buy signal. I mean, we were completely wiped out at that. For me personally, I think that the market needs to come down more now. Even if it doesn't happen, it's not going to. I'm looking at weekly time frames here, so I'm not talking about tomorrow or whatever. I'm talking weeks down the line. I think we're going to have lower prices. So for me to sit these ones out, maybe to buy some of these dips or dumps or crashes, and I will see where we go from there. But all eyes on Dixie and Bitcoin. This weekly chart doesn't look too healthy to me. It looks like it wants to come down further. So a lot of people are probably going to watch this video and go, "Oh, it's not. It's gone up. It's gone up. It's gone up." Yeah, it's gone up until this goes back to bullish again. I would be pretty worried of holding on to anything for any prolonged period of time. Because I think that we're going to be coming down. So the question is, if we do come down massively, where we're going to come down to? We have this line here, which is our parabolic top, and actually Binance has been really funny with me recently, and it's not really been showing me my analysis very but I need to keep this in here. This is my trend line from, it goes back to 2017. You can see there where we get supported, and rejected, and supported, and rejected, and then we found a fair bit of time getting rejected from it there. This is the line, the bullish line. This is the super bullish line, and it's getting ever and ever further and further away from us, basically rocketing right up into the skies. This is the one that we need to stay to get above and stay above, and unfortunately, it's just going it's going a long way away from us. But this also, will a bit of hopium for you. Obviously, this is going up very fast. This is a weekly chart we're looking at here, obviously, so it's it looks worse than it is. But if and when we do get above here, this should turn to support, and that will help us ride all the way up to 20,000 and beyond. But until that happens, it's just getting further and further away. I think our levels are going to be dancing around this descending trend line here of support, and this is where we're likely to find ourselves bottoming out if we come down to test these levels. And it's not, like I say, it's not going to happen this week, or it might do, but I'd be surprised if it did. But when it does happen, this would be the first area for me to get super long on it. But for the moment, it's a waiting game, unfortunately, and I'm waiting for all of these to play out. There's a lot of intricate situations going on with the pandemic, with the election, with the price of the dollar, with the economy, with stocks, with commodities, and they're all intertwined. So it would take, a super-powered AI to work out what's going on with all of that. And try and have a certain outcome. But for me, the way I've looked at it is that not only Bitcoin but stocks have this negative cross on the weekly. I'm talking American stocks, we're talking Nasdaq, S&P, oil's down today. They're all showing me the same kind of thing, which is that there is going to be a continued downtrend, not crashing, but just a continued downtrend until we see some kind of bottoming out somewhere. So for those expecting a giant collapse, I'd be surprised if we saw something like that, but a general downtrend is what I'm expecting to happen, and that will be across the board for everything. Probably not the Dixie, but everything else. Right, well, thank you for watching. I hope you have a nice day. Take it easy, and thank you again, and subscribe if you're not already.